So hello everyone, I'm Advaith and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be continuing the third chapter in class 8 geography, that is mineral and power resources. In the first part of this series, we discussed minerals, and today, as the chapter's name suggests, we'll be talking about power resources. Now, in power resources, this chapter has divided the resources into two parts, that is conventional and non-conventional. Conventional are those which have been used since the ancient times, whereas non-conventional ones are those which are rather new, which have just been brought into use. So first, we'll be talking about the conventional sources of energy. Let's see what they are. The first conventional source of energy is coal. Coal is probably the most abundantly used mineral in the entire world. It is used to produce electricity most of the time. So, coal is basically the most abundant mineral on Earth. The second point is that coal produces an energy called thermal energy. So, basically, the process of producing energy or electricity through coal is called thermal power or thermal electricity. Thermal basically means heat. Anything with the word thermal means it is related to heat. Now, why do we call it heat energy? Because coal, basically, when burnt, releases carbon in the form of steam, which has a high temperature and lots of heat. This heat is used to produce energy, and hence it is called thermal power. Now, the third point is that coal is commonly referred to as buried sunshine. Why is that? Well, to understand that, we have to understand how coal was once formed. So, basically, there were large forests once upon a time on Earth, and due to volcanic activity or activity of the Earth, these large masses of forests and swamps got buried under the surface of the Earth. Over the years, due to the building up of pressure and high temperatures, the wood in these forests and swamps slowly got converted into coal. So that is how coal is formed. And because once upon a time it used to be forests, that is, it used to be exposed to the sunshine, and then it got buried, it's called buried sunshine. So always remember that coal is commonly referred to as buried sunshine. Now, the countries which have the largest deposits of coal are shown in this map. We want to remember four of these, and those four are China, Russia, the United States, and Germany. So remember these four. And in India, these are the major coal producing regions. So I hope those two maps give you an idea of where coal is produced in India and internationally. Now, the next conventional source of energy is petroleum. It is perhaps the most important of all of the conventional sources of energy. Things like wax, kerosene, etc., all of them come from petroleum, petrol, diesel, all of which we use in our automobiles. So, how do we extract this petroleum in the first place? As I explained in the previous part, which you can check out here if you want to, I explained that petroleum is obtained through the process of drilling, that is, drilling holes in the surface of the earth, something like this. Now, when holes are drilled, petroleum comes out with huge force, and along with it comes with another mineral called natural gas, which we'll talk about later. Basically, petroleum comes out with a huge force, but this petroleum is not the one which we can use in our daily life. It still does not have a use. This petroleum is called crude oil. Crude basically means raw, and so crude oil means raw oil. This is contrasted from the processed oil or the processed petroleum through which we receive petroleum products. This crude oil is basically sent to places called refineries, where this petroleum is broken down into different components such as wax, kerosene, petrol, diesel, etc. And these different components are called petroleum products. So that is basically how petroleum works. Now, here is a map showcasing the major petroleum producing regions of the world. Now, take note that these are also the regions which are known for their rich lifestyles. So basically, these are the countries with a high and a very, very strong economy, all because of petroleum or oil. And these are the major oil producing or petroleum producing regions in India. Notice something common in the two maps? Yes, these regions are present very close to the sea. This is because petroleum is usually formed under the layers of the sea. So that is all about petroleum. Now, the third conventional resource that we'll be talking about is natural gas. Natural gas is basically this companion for petroleum. Wherever you find petroleum, you will always find natural gas. Basically, when petroleum was formed, this natural gas was also formed along with it. And so, whenever we drill to extract petroleum, first comes out natural gas, which comes out at a very, very high pressure. And this natural gas can be used for many, many things and can be replaced for petrol, diesel, etc. in our daily lives. So, natural gas basically always comes along with petroleum. Here's a map showcasing the major natural gas deposits around the world. Now, take notice that these are also the regions where there is a high amount of petroleum found. And here are the major natural gas producing regions in India. Again, the theme is similar as these are also the regions where we find large amounts of petroleum in India. So, that is the concept of conventional resources of energy. Now, what you have to understand about conventional resources is that they are exhaustible. That is, they can run out very easily. And they're not renewable. That is, they cannot be used over and over again. Once you use one of these resources, it cannot be brought back again. This causes the depletion or the complete destruction of these natural resources, which is extremely unprecedented. So, over the past few years, the world has moved on to a different source of energy called non conventional sources of energy. Let's look at them now. The first non conventional source of energy, and probably the most well known of them all, is solar energy. Whenever you hear the word solar, you have to understand that the thing is related to the sun. Solar energy is basically the usage of the sun's heat energy to produce energy for our own consumption. Now, solar energy, however, is specific only to a few areas. Now, those areas such as coastal regions which receive a lot of sunshine in a year can use the solar energy very easily. But when you talk about regions such as Kashmir, which are way up north in India, they cannot use the solar energy as the sun barely shines over there with such high intensity. So, solar energy is mostly found in coastal regions where the amount of sunshine is very high. So, that is all about solar energy, and it can be used in various aspects of life. Things such as solar cookers or now even solar cars are becoming a big thing and will probably be used 40 or 50 years down the line in the future. Now, the next non-conventional source of energy is wind energy. As the name suggests, it is the process of harnessing energy from the wind, of course. Whenever we say wind energy, the first picture that comes to our mind is obviously windmills. But how do these work? Let's take a look. When the wind pushes the blades of these windmills, they turn. And when these blades turn, along with them, turbines turn within the windmill. These turbines, when turned at a high speed, produce lots of energy, and hence we receive wind energy. So that's basically all about wind energy. Wind energy, however, is only limited to those areas, once again, which receive lots of wind all throughout the year consistently. This is not possible in many areas of the world, and when you take parts of India, such as Rajasthan, which are basically deserts where you don't receive a lot of wind, it becomes very, very difficult to harness wind energy. So, just as we saw in solar energy, wind energy is also specific only to a few areas. The next non conventional source of energy that we'll be talking about is nuclear energy. So, how is nuclear energy obtained? Well, it's simple. You know, atoms, there are a few atoms in nature which are radioactive. That is, they can be used in reactions to produce energy. Now, these radioactive elements, the atoms of these, undergo a process called fission. Fission is the opposite of fusion. When we say fusion, we mean the mixing of two substances, whereas in fission, we mean the breaking apart of two substances. So, these atoms go through fission and hence produce energy. This nuclear energy can be used in many ways to replace things like coal, petroleum, etc. Now, Here's a map showcasing the major nuclear power stations in the entire world. And here is a map showcasing the major nuclear power producing regions of India. Now, what we have to understand is that nuclear energy is also, in most senses, limited. Only those areas which have the high presence of radioactive elements, such as uranium and thorium, they are the only ones which are able to produce this nuclear energy. So it is also limited to a few areas. So that is the entire concept of nuclear energy. The next is geothermal energy. Geo means earth and thermal means heat. And so geothermal heat means energy harnessed from the earth. Basically, in earth, inside the surface of the earth, there are hot springs which have a lot of heat energy with them. When the surface of the earth is dug and when drilling is done into it, these vapors come out with high pressure and a lot of heat. And so these are used to obtain energy because, once again, as we saw in coal, these things have heat, and heat can always be used to produce energy. And here are some of the most prominent regions in the world which produce geothermal energy. Geothermal energy, once again, is limited only to those areas where the concentration of these vapors is very, very high. And similarly, in India, these are the regions which are the largest producers of geothermal energy. And so that is the entire concept of geothermal energy. The next form of non-conventional sources of energy is tidal energy. As the name itself suggests, it comes from tides. Basically, when dams are built at the narrow openings of different rivers and canals, the tides that flow through these rivers, and sometimes even through seas, can be used to produce energy. These dams are built in such a way that when the water hits them with a high amount of force, turbines are turned within the dam and hence energy is produced. So that is the concept of tidal energy. And with that, we have finished the third chapter in class 8 geography, minerals and power resources. And so I hope that all of you have understood all of these concepts. And till then, should. And with that, we have finished the third chapter in class 8 geography, that is minerals and power resources. I hope that all of you understood all of these concepts, and I'll be back with the fourth chapter in geography, that is agriculture. Till then, thank you.